Hello and welcome to this Canva tutorial. So I'm going to be showing you how to create a relatively complicated Canva graphic, and this is perfect for beginners. I'm going to take you through all of the details. This one was requested by one of my business partners that wanted me to show how to actually go through and create this image. Let me show you what we're going to be doing. All right, so we have this image, right? And there's a lot going on in here. We've got text, we've got graphics, we've got layers, which means we're taking something and we're stacking something else on top of it, right? So you can see things like this ribbon is kind of like behind this image, and then this other image is behind that image, and there's kind of like a dark overlay that's on top of that ribbon and that background image that's not on top of this image. But there is a dark overlay that's on top of this image so that her name and this get offer can kind of pop out a little bit more, right? So let me show you. This is kind of, we're not going to try and recreate it exactly because we're not trying to be exact, but we want to get close, right? So this is kind of what I did earlier to test out, making sure we could do everything and make it look exactly the way we need it in Canva. So anytime you're looking at something like this and you're trying to recreate it, it generally works better to start from the bottom layer up, right? So to take the thing that's in the very back and do that first, and then start to build on top of it. Now you can move things around, so if you get something wrong and you're not exactly in order, it's okay. It's okay. It'll be fine. But for what we're going to be doing, I'm going to show you kind of how to go about this probably the easiest way possible. So let's start with that background image. So I'm going to go over here to an empty canvas. Now I like to go over here to elements and then scroll down to grids, and I'm going to put this grid in first. What that does is it gives us kind of this container that can hold whatever image we want to put in, and it's going to be automatically cropped and sized to fit this space, so it will fill the whole canvas. So if we're looking like over here at our example, that background image, it does fill the whole canvas. So let's go to our blank one. Oh, sorry, made another blank one. Delete. Okay. Got our thing here. So now let's go into elements, and I'm going to search. I'm just going to look for like a businesswoman, and I'm going to go to photos, and I'm going to find one that kind of has the vibe we're looking for, right? Like I want an image where I can get her face kind of up here in the left hand corner. This one looks like I could probably do that with it. So let's grab her. And I just grabbed it and dragged it, and see how it put it perfectly into that frame, because this is obviously a rectangle-y image and it moved it into a square image for us, which is great. That's exactly what we want. Now if I double click, it's going to crop it, meaning I can keep it inside this square and I can move it around. So I can slide it over, I can grab this corner handle and make it bigger, and I can put her exactly where I want so she's nice and visible in the background, and then I just click off to the side and I'm done, right? That's cropped out. It fits exactly where we want. Now, the next thing we've got on top of her is this kind of red banner that's running across the whole back of the image. So let's go over here. I'm going to clear this search that I had in elements. So I'm still over here in elements. I'm going to grab this rectangle square with the rounded corners. And I don't want the rounded corners, right? That's not what we're looking for in our image. So I'm going to click on corner rounding, and I'm going to move it down. They used to have it where you had the rounded one that already had rounded corners and then the squared one that didn't, and they got rid of the squared one. So I don't know why. It was here the last time I was here. So that's okay. We can use rounded rectangles. It's fine. Then I'm going to change that color to like a red. Now, if you don't have a red already in your document, you can come down here to solid colors and pick one. Or you can just type in like, I want a red, and we can find a red that we like a dark red or a bright red. Now I'm choosing a bright red because we have two layers that are on top of this that are kind of like semi see-through. Like if you've ever tried to look out of a tinted window, kind of the same vibe. Because we can tell that Leanne Lopez Mosley is bright white, like that text is bright white, where Instant Access and this other programs and Instantly and that kind of stuff in the background is not bright white. So there is an overlay behind Leanne Lopez Mosley and Get Offer and above everything else. So we have kind of a window tint going on there. And then there's another one because you can tell that like Instant Access and her and this text is brighter than this red ribbon and this woman in the back. So we have two kind of window film transparent boxes to deal with. When we have that going on, we know that this color is going to get duller, right? So if I had like a 30% tint and another 30% tint, I have a 60% tint. So I'm going to start with something really bright because I know that's what's happening. Now I'll give you a little trick. All of these little handles on the side help you resize it. And when you hold down the shift keys, the control keys, or the alt keys on your keyboard while you're dragging these around, it will do some different things. So we're going to use the alt key. So I'm going to press the alt key, and then I'm going to click on this and I'm going to drag. And you notice how it's sizing it from both sides. That's what we want. If I'm not holding the alt key, it's just going to size it on one side. Right, so it just makes it where it takes me a little bit longer to get it centered up because our little square started life whenever we inserted it into here right in the middle of the canvas. So if I hold down Alt and I drag until I get a height we're looking for, it's still in the middle of the canvas. Do the same thing on the sides, put it over here. Now we have our little red banner ready to go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, nice and good. All right, now the next element that we want to do is on top of that red banner, right, we have this other picture. Now this picture is one picture, but it was probably created in Canva on its own, right, or in some other software on its own. So we have her, we have text, we have this like safe vault thing, we have some logos, some text, a background image. Now I'm not going to take you through recreating all of that. We're just going to put an image right in the middle, but I want to give you an idea of kind of how you would do that if you wanted to. So let's say we have our elements, right? There's a city background that I did just the same way that we just did that lady. I can click on the right thing. There we go. Same way we just did that lady a second ago. I put the box and I put an image in it. Okay. Then we've got this safe. If you hold down control, it'll let you drag it around without putting it in the background. So then there's like this safe thing behind her, right? And I found that just by searching elements and looking at photos is where I found all those. Then we've got her, but obviously she's got a background. The other lady didn't. So if we click background remover, it will remove the background and then poof, right? That's the most complex bit of that other fancy image. The rest of it is just text and stuff like that on it. Obviously they've used slightly different images. I couldn't find the exact ones. I wouldn't spend forever searching, but they used, you know, they've got some perspective distortion. Like the camera's looking up at her, so they used, you know, a safe that kind of has the same distortion. They've got city images in the background that has the same distortion, but otherwise this is exactly what they did, and then they put some text and good to go. Okay, so with that in mind, we're not going to build all of that. We're just going to put another image right in the middle. So like I did right here, right? We've got the background image, we've got another image in the middle. If you had this big fancy image, you could just save it out of Canva, and I'll show you how to do that at the end of the video when we're done with this design. But you could just save it out and upload it. Okay, so what we're going to do next is I'm going to actually take this one that we already have, right click and copy, right click and paste. And what this does is it gives me another grid with a picture inside it, right? That's perfectly square, which is what we've got going on. Now I'm going to hold down my Alt key again, and I'm going to grab this corner and I'm going to pull in. Now, if you notice, we're kind of getting rectangle-y as well, right? So what I'm also going to do is hold down Alt and Shift. That's going to keep it the same size and resize it from all sides at the same time, right? So I can shrink it down, kind of put it in the middle, we're good to go. Now obviously we want a different picture. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go to photos. Now if you did need to upload something, you would go over here to uploads, you would upload your image. So we go uploads, upload files, and you would choose a picture, right? So let's just say this is the thumbnail I just made in Canva for this. Then I would drag it in, put it in here, badoop, ready to go, right? Same kind of vibe, but I'm not gonna do that because that's kind of weird for what we're doing for this picture. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and find one with a kind of light background, a pretty bright image, because like I said before, we're gonna add a couple layers of transparency on top of this, and it's gonna make this picture darker. So if I were to start with, let's say like an already really dark picture, and then I'll come over here and I add our, I'm just going to do a little quick overlay so you guys can see what I'm talking about. If I make this black and then reduce it, right, this is where we get our window film. If that picture is really dark to start with, it's kind of hard to make it work. So if you're using your own pictures, what we want to do here is start with a kind of lighter image. Photos. Let's see. So like here we go, that one's lighter, so that would work. This one would probably even work because if we slide it over a little bit, she's got a lot of light contrast in here, so that could work really well. So we'll try that one. All right, so now we have our image, we have our ribbon, we have another image, and then we've got some text on the top and a couple of arrows. So let's work on that. All right, now we also have this overlay, so let's do that first. So we can tell that there's a color overlay over top of that image, like our window film kind of overlay on top of that image and on top of that banner and under this text, right? Because this text isn't as bright as this text. So let's do that real quick. So I'm actually, because we're just going to use a rectangle to do that with and we're going to shade it, I'm just going to use this red that we've already got and I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to put it back in the middle, just clicking and dragging. Then I'm going to hold down Alt. I'm going to make it fill the space again. And then I'm going to turn it black. And I'm going to reduce the transparency. Probably going to go to like 40. Because we're going to add another overlay again, right? Now I'm going to go to Position. And over here on Layers, I want to pull that underneath the square image, right? Because you can tell that this image pops more than that image. So it's got to be on top of that overlay. So did y'all see how that worked? We bring this down. So you can see it again. You see how it's kind of dark? And then we bring it up to the top and it popped out brighter and the rest of this stayed faded. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Now let's add instant access. This is bold and italic. This is not bold and not italic. So, and it's all caps. Let's go over here. We'll add some heading. We'll make it bigger. Instant access, exclamation point. Now I'm going to select the word access and I'm going to make it not bold. Okay. Then I'm going to click on the word instant and select it. Click and drag. And I'm going to leave it bold and I'm going to make it also be italic. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag it until it snaps. Do y'all see those little light purple lines kind of snapping it into place? Now the other thing that you can do is you can click on position and arrange, and if this wasn't in the center, you could click center. And if you have a little bit of trouble controlling your mouse, I know I do sometimes, you can actually select on it and then use your arrow keys. So you can just hold down your arrow key and bump it up. And if you do shift plus your arrow key, it moves it faster, right? So like boop, boop, boop. That's a great way to kind of nudge things into place and not lose their alignment because it was already centered up. I just wanted it to go straight up, right? So the up key on the keyboard helps me do that. So that's got our instant access text. The next thing that we had from our inspiration one was these kind of red arrows. So let's go to Elements. Let's search arrow, and I'm going to go to graphics instead of photos because a lot of your designed elements that aren't something that was like taken with a camera tend to be in graphics versus photos, which tends to be things that are, you know, got like photos of hands and stuff like that. And you might find what you're looking for in here, but probably not in this case. So we're going to go to graphics, and there's actually one that looks almost exactly like it right here. So I'm just going to click that and it's going to bring it in. Now I'm going to click on the color wheel up here to change the color. I will tell you that not all graphics in Canva let you change their color. So if you can't change the color, just delete this one and find another one so that you can. Now I'm going to turn that red and I'm going to put it over here. And then I'm going to click this duplicate and I'm going to make another one. And I'm going to put it over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this one horizontal, right? So you can see how they're both kind of pointing different ways. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it a little more than 90 degrees. So I'm going to go like 100 degrees. And then I'm going to rotate this one negative 100 degrees, right? Doesn't have to be perfect. And then the other trick I'm going to show you is if I want them both exactly the same spacing from this photo, one really simple trick is to use that nudging thing I was showing you earlier. So I'm going to bring both of these in. I'm going to hold down Shift to select them both. I'm going to go to position and I'm going to make sure they're middle centered. Looks like they are, so we're good. That means that they're both the same height away from the top, right? They're both centered up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on one of these arrows and I'm going to use my Shift and my arrow key on my keyboard, and I'm going to count how many times over I do that, right? So I'm going to move it to the right, so Shift and right arrow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I kind of like how that looks, so that's pretty good. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here. Notice how it's touching the image. It's the same way that this one was. Then I'm going to go Shift and left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you notice how those little things popped up and it said it was 50 pixels away on both sides? That's exactly what we're looking for. You can sit here and you can click and drag it around until you can get exactly 50 pixels. But I just found that is so much easier to hold down Shift and the arrow key and just be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you just get the great spacing. You're ready to go. Now, they were a little higher up over here, so they're kind of with the text a little bit more. So I'm going to grab that. So I'm going to click the first one, I'm going to hold down Shift and click the second one. Then I'm going to use Shift and my up arrow key at the same time and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there we go. So now we've kind of got them centered up. It looks good. We got all those pieces in. Now, something else that we've got is this circle with over 50% off and the little logo text in it, RQ. So to do that, I'm going to clear this out over here and we're going to grab our circle and we're going to make it white and we're going to make the text black. And then I forgot what the word said, over 50% off. Okay. Over 50% off, exclamation point. Was it all caps? Yes, it was. All right. And onto a new line, select all the text, caps, bold, bigger text. Then I'm going to add RQ. I'm going to make the font something a little fancier. I'm going to make that text a different color, right? So red. And I'm going to make it a little smaller. And I'm going to make this a little bigger. Boop, 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 boop. I'm going to make the whole circle a little smaller. Let's say. I'm also going to change the spacing. So line spacing is between the words over and 50% off, right? That white space that's in between those words. If I make that a little smaller, it pulls it closer together, right? Which I think is good for this little circle. Letter spacing would increase the space between the letters, right? So like boom, which I don't necessarily want, but I do like the line spacing. Okay, there we go. All right, now our little circle was off over here to the side, about right here-ish, and he was rotated. So I'm just going to grab this little drag handle at the bottom with the two little arrows, and I'm just going to spin it, okay? There we go. That looks kind of like what we had over there. Again, not perfect, but close. Then we've got some text down here, programs, something that instantly probably like converts your idle client or something to that effect. So let's go over here. Let's grab our text, duplicate. Oh, sorry, I use keyboard shortcuts a lot. Let me do it the other way. All right, click this, and then we'll do duplicate on the button. I'm going to drag it down to the bottom. I'm going to center it. So again, like you can see those kind of drag lines. That purple line shows me that it's centered because it's going all the way top to bottom. I could also just drag it and then go to position and go center over here, right? Now, what we had over here was program something that programs that something that increase conversion. I can't see all this, so I'm going to make the text smaller. What did it say? Instantly convert your idle client or something. Instantly convert your idle client. Exclamation point. Okay. Now this text was italic, was capitalized. So let's select it. It's already italic. Let's make it all caps. And it was bold. And it was only on 2 lines. So let's make the text a little smaller. I also am going to increase the or decrease the line spacing, kind of pull it together. Again, if we want to get it centered up. Now below that, she had her name, Leanne Lopez Mosley, and I guess it's kind of like a logo. So if you had a logo, you could upload the logo image and just drag it in and insert it. If you don't have a logo, I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. All right, so I'm going to duplicate this again, which is Control D on the keyboard, or you can click that duplicate button again. So now let's type her name, Leanne. I'm so bad with names. Leanne Lopez Mosley. Okay. All right, now none of that is italic, and none of that was bold. So let's do that. Leanne was in a different font. It was in that fancy font that we did with RQ earlier, so let's do that. We also know that Leanne and Lopez Mosley are about the same width, right? So Leanne Lopez Mosley is actually a little skinnier, and there's some spacing between the letters. So let's grab that one. Let's bump up the letter spacing, and then let's decrease the size so that it's a little skinnier than the word Leanne. Now you're probably thinking Leanne's already a little too big too. That's okay. We're going to grab this and shrink them both together, right? So we can grab that little grab handle and shrink them both. We also need to get that line spacing up. Okay, there we go. That looks pretty close, right? A little smaller maybe. All right, then we're going to go position and we're going to center it. So it's like right on the center of this image. I'm going to use my arrow keys and we'll bump him up just a little. Okay. And that was something else that happened right there too. So you notice as I was bumping it up, 26 shows up right here and right here. And that's showing that this is even spacing between these things, which is what you want, right? You want some symmetry. You want some symmetry in your spacing around your stuff. All right. So looking at our thing, we've kind of got all the stuff that's happening in the background now, right? We just have her name right here with this little flying money thing and the get off her button. So we need to add that other overlay that's on top of all of this before we do the next thing. So I'm going to grab this overlay that we already did and I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to go to position and I'm going to center it in the middle. Okay. So now it's there again. It's overlaid. This looks about like what we had going on. Now I'm going to grab some more heading text, make it a little bigger, and then Leanne Lopez Mosley. All right, so we've got Leanne Lopez Mosley and this little flying money thing, and this is obviously too big. I'm going to drag this out to fill the whole width, and let's make the text smaller so that we get it kind of where we're looking. So it's centered up. Let's bring it down here because she kind of had it over this image, right? So it's over the bottom of the image, not over this text. That's really important too. And this is kind of almost, because there's text in this image, it's almost problematic, but you don't want to have layers where text that they need to read is on top of other text, because you can already tell how this is getting harder to read. So what I want to do is put it right here, not down here, right? See how much harder that is to read if it's on top of other text versus if it's on top of another image. So keep that in mind when you're designing your stuff. Now we also need that little flying money dude. So we're going to go over here to elements and we're going to search flying money, and I'm going to go to graphics, and it looks like we've got a few different ones in here. I'm going to go with what we want to go with. What looks good. If you want a little bit of movement, you can even do these. Just when you save it, you're going to have to like share, download. If you bring in something that's got movement, that little flying money with the flapping wings, you're gonna have to save it out as a GIF, I can't remember which way you pronounce it, or an MP4 video, and you're gonna have to use that. Otherwise it just won't move, right? So you could still use it if you like it, it's just not gonna move, okay? And you can test out different things. Sometimes things with movement convert really well, sometimes things without movement convert really well. Kind of up to you. I don't like the muted tones. Let's go with something a little brighter. All right, there we go. Bring it down here. I'm going to make it just a little bigger. I'm going to hold that Alt key down again. Now, you notice how our visual weight is now skewed. Okay, so that's something that I want you to understand. I also want to show you this. So I put that in there. It went behind the text. So like, see, I'm trying to select it and I keep selecting my text, and that's not what I'm trying to do. The reason it did that is because of our layers. So if we go over here, Money is behind the text, okay? So I can't select the money because the text is on top of the money. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the money up to the top. Now I can select the money. The other thing that you can do is actually select it from the layer bar, right? So if I had this selected but I wanted the money selected, I just come over here and click the money, and now the money is selected, okay? So keep that in mind. But we notice that our visual weight is different, right? There's more space between the side of the picture and here than there is from the side of the picture to the money. So what we're going to do is I'm going to come to the end of Mosley, and I'm just going to add a couple spaces. I'm just going to push it out, okay? And get it where it kind of looks right. And then I'm going to scooch the money in probably just a little bit more. Now, if you wanted to be like super exact and make sure that these things were completely in the center, let me show you how to do that. I'm going to shrink this box up. So let me get rid of the spaces. That's the other way to do it. So no spaces. And then I'm going to shrink this box so that it just fits the letters, right? So just right there. Then I'm going to move it over. I'm just using my arrow keys again. Moving it over. Grabbing these two. So I select the text. I click shift and I grab the money. Then I'm going to go to position, arrange, and I'm going to make sure these things are lined up top, vertically, right? So that's what the middle does. And then I'm going to click group. What this does is it makes these two things behave as one thing. So when I click center, they're both going to center up. Now, if I didn't do that, so let me ungroup them. If I didn't do that and I clicked center, they're both going to center up with each other and not even with the whole canvas, just with the two things that I have selected, right? Which is obviously not what we want to have happen. So group them, center, because it's the only thing selected, it's going to center to the canvas, okay? So keep that in mind as well. Let me pull it down just a little. All right, so that's got our name and our money. Now we need the get offer button. So what I'm going to do, and this may seem a little counterintuitive, but I'm going to grab my rounded square again. I'm going to make the background white. I'm actually going to bump the corner rounding way up, and then watch what happens when I make it short. It looks just like that button now, doesn't it? Isn't that cool? Make sure the text is black so that I can see it. And this said, get offer. Okay. Now I will say, I noticed that in this case, they didn't capitalize offer. They didn't use any exclamation points. Sometimes that's intentional and people are trying to do it to grab attention, like with instant access, bold and italic brings your eye over to instant. So it's intentional. In this case, the lowercase offer, probably not intentional. Probably just they just didn't type, a capital. So don't get too hung up when you're kind of copying other people's stuff or using something for inspiration. Don't copy other people's stuff exactly. But if you're using something for inspiration like that, I'm going to bump the letter spacing up just a little. Then, don't assume that they had this big intelligent thought process that went into every little decision they made and choices with colors and capitalizations. They could just be trying things, right? Even if somebody is incredibly successful and has been doing a lot of things and their stuff has been working fantastic and all that stuff, just because they did it does not mean that you should. And just because they did it doesn't mean it's even working for them. You have no idea. They could be testing something and, trying something new, and who knows. So don't worry about trying to copy it exactly. Now, let's look at what we got. This looks pretty close, right? We've got all the same stuff, slightly different pictures. Now, their brand, as you can tell, is probably red, black, gold, white. Like, that's their color scheme. If that is not your color scheme, like mine is blue, one of the simplest things that you can do, I use a lot of blues or purples or pinks. One of the simplest things you can do to completely change the kind of brand of this would be to take this overlay and make it blue. Right? Now see how we kind of immediately get a different vibe from it. Now, if I was really trying to get all on brand, I go in here and I change that red, because I don't use red for my arrows and banners. I would use probably purple or something there, but we're not going to do all that right now. Now, because this is a lighter color, I'm going to bump the transparency up a little so that we still get really good distinction between the stuff in the back and the stuff in the front. Okay. Stuff in the front needs to jump out, but because we want to kind of tease that there's something really good back here, which is what this is doing, there's something really good under this button here, and I don't know exactly what it is. I'm kind of curious, right? So they're like strategically hiding some of the offer behind this stuff. So I bumped this up so we can still see through it, but we can still see that this is something different. Okay, this doesn't belong with it. Now, the other things that we can do, and I'm going to give you just another suggestion to make this pop even a little bit better, to give that depth even a little bit more. We're going to take this text, her name with the little thing, and I'm going to go to effects, and I'm going to use the lift effect, and I'm going to bump that intensity way up. Now, let me show you what that does. Let me zoom in. I'm going to go down here and click this 92 and go to like 200% and zoom in. You can also use Control or Command and plus to zoom in. Now, let me show you. If I take this down, do you see how there's like no kind of drop shadow around this text? When I bump this up, it kind of gets a black shadow behind it, which is a little bit different than using actual shadow, right? Actual shadow has like more settings and kind of gives it some lift, and you can blur and kind of get a really similar effect, but it's a little trickier to get the placement right and get the alignment right and everything. So if you just do lift, it's going to give you a similar effect, not as strong as shadow, but for something like this, it's going to work. Now, I'm going to Control or Command minus to zoom back out, or you can click down here and just say fit. Okay. Scroll up. All right. So see how that's popping a lot more, and I already like that. If I wanted to do something similar here, you notice I don't have an effects button for this. So there's a couple ways we can do that. We can go drop shadow over here and we can find some shapes. So if I go to graphics, I could find something that kind of resembles my little pill shape button, kind of like this one does. I could put it behind it. We're going to resize it, use the Alt key, kind of bring it down, get it where it's kind of centered up on it. Then go position and layers, bring it under the button, right? And see how now our button's popping just a little. So those are some subtle tweaks that'll kind of add a little bit more depth and dimension that I think is kind of missing from this one. And some of the branding that, you want to change it to your brand. So hopefully that helps you guys if you're trying to make some like a little bit more complicated looking Canva graphics for your Instagram. So please feel free, if you have any other things like this that you would like to see me make some tutorials for, put it in the comments. I'll be happy to make some more videos. I'm going to be making lots of videos covering things like Canva, branding, doing things in high level like setting up membership programs, websites, automations, email nurture sequences, email workflows, and lots of things that early stage entrepreneurs really need to do. And while you're wearing all of the hats in your business, it is hard to learn all these skills fast enough to do all this stuff. So I'm going to be helping with a lot of that kind of stuff, putting out a lot more tutorials. So please make sure you smash that subscribe. And if you want more hands-on support, head over to neurospicyacademy.com and join the academy. We have a 30-day free trial happening over there, so you can come in, spend a whole month with us, get access to not just me, but the other mentors that we have on there. We have mindset coaches, we have fractional COOs, we have tons of other people over there to help you with a lot of the stuff that you have to do, as well as resources and courses and tools and templates and a virtual campus and so many other things to support you as you're putting all these hats on and trying to get so much stuff done in your business. So smash that subscribe, head over to neurospicyacademy.com, and I will see you in the next tutorial video. Bye guys.